that same ex-girlfriend ended up becoming a heroin addict and like pulling me in that direction. So there was this like warbly like 2 years where I was like uncertain of things that were going on.
The whole concept for Move is make a difference. O, to offer up your time, talent, and gifts. B, there's victory in the small things, and E, to encourage others. And so I started to move.
Hello, everybody out there in podcast land and YouTube land. I'm Scotty Carlisle, and this is the Move Podcast. So today we have a guest, the one and only Sage Jackson. So you're going to hear more about his story, and so am I. You see, we were just kind of introduced, and Sage has an interesting background. And before we delve too far into the adversity that he's faced in his life and how he's overcome it, we wanted to kind of get familiar with each other and kind of just see how we think, how I think, how you think it. And it seems to be that we're on the same page. So get ready for an interesting show. If you're driving your car, kick your seat back and relax. Close your eyes and pretend. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You might get me in trouble, and we don't want to have that happen. No. So Sage, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sage Jackson. I play in a band called Face Facts. I also play in a band called Siamese Dream. I also work as a screen printer sometimes and a bartender, but I usually just call those my pretend jobs. I'm working for my real job so I can take some time off and play music, but no, it's just a joke. But yeah,
just that's your main passion is music?
Yeah, music, and hopefully something involving music. I would like to play music, but I've always thought, I don't know, just owning a small label or being a tour manager would be fun too, or just doing stuff like that. I feel like even though I'm younger and just breaking into it and little things, like there's just already so much wrong that has happened to me that I feel like being a tour manager, steering younger people in the right direction, and we're at the epitome of like the DIY stage of the process. So like booking shows and like making sure that we get paid at the end of the night and like keeping track of all the merchandise and being a screen printer and making sure I'm printing enough merchandise and doing all that, and like kind of being just the main guy for the band, doing all the social media stuff and like setting stuff up like this to just even talk about it, to get it out there a little more. So
the main reason you're doing screen printing is so you could print your own merchandise.
Is literally the only reason why I do screen printing. I mean, I loved screen printing before because it's just like a creative, fun thing, and I don't know, it just is a fun, cool process. But
you consider yourself a creative?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, like everything that, like, I don't know, even when I worked in retail, like I worked at Vans when like I like was the guy building the skateboards all day, and I was just like, oh, these graphics are sick, and like just doing stuff like that, and just, I don't know, just being around stuff that I like, or just they would be like, oh, like we like your style, like why don't you put together the shirt display? And I'm like, okay. And so just, I don't know, working there and then working as a screen printer and then also just being a band guy, just, I don't know, always just, even if it's like something small, just trying to at least keep my workplace around something that I'm at least interested in to keep myself motivated. Like obviously as a screen printer, I don't want to die a screen printer, but it's like I'm making money at my job, and then at the end of the day I can like print shirts before the show and like drive afterwards. So it was very cool. And also too, like none of the other bands we're playing with have like screen printing access like that. So every show we had like new t-shirts, and so everybody was buying our shirts all the time, and like it started to get to the point where we were right before quarantine hit, we were like breaking even on every show. So like it was first year was like losing money every show, and then I was like, screw this, like I just need to become a screen printer or something. Like we need like, because merch is like, especially as like a touring musician, is like the number one financial successor, like while like playing music, is like merchandise. Because if you're a stranger and you show up to a show, and like especially a local show like that, and like you're gonna be like, oh, this band's sick, oh, that's the merch table, oh, it's a $15 t-shirt, yeah, that I'm gonna pay that. And like so we would be playing at shows, and then we went from like, you know, losing money to the venue or whoever put on the show would be like, oh, here's $60 for gas, and then we had like 80 in merch sales, and then I'm like, we don't have to pay for gas tonight, guys.
Cha-ching!
Like, you know, not making any money but not losing any either, or just putting it towards other merch or just gas for the next shows or whatever. So definitely like I said, just trying to keep myself, and like I said, like even the Vans thing, like guys that play in bands or like music are gonna come into Vans, and like I, you know, just
connect.
Yeah, basically just anything that would be good networking or anything like that, I tried to dip my hand into.
So let me ask you, when did you get into music? Because I have at some point in your life, there was a force either pushing you or a force pulling you into experiencing the music, right? Is that
funnily? Well, kind of, yes. Like funnily enough, it's like I never listened to good music really ever. Like my family was basically like, rap music's bad, Rush and Metallica are the only bands that exist. And I was just like, okay, like in my head too, I would like look at a CD and I would be like, dang, those are the two good songs. Look at all this filler. Like I didn't even understand that a band could like have like an album's worth of good songs. But I was always into skateboarding and stuff. And when I was in high school, when I was 15, my first high school girlfriend, before she was my girlfriend, was like, oh, like, do you like this band, or like, do you listen to this kind of music? And I was like, no, I've never heard of any of that. And she was like, oh, you just like, you look like you would like that kind of music. And I was like, no, like what? Or like I just didn't get, I was like, I don't really listen to that much music. Or I was like, it doesn't like I don't know, I just had like zero connection to it, so I had like no interest. But like, you know, skateboarding, these guys are like throwing themselves through the gauntlet, and like it's just all like super raw, just passion. And so I don't know. And like I would hear cool songs in skate videos, and they ended up being some of the bands that my like high school girlfriend was like trying to show me. And then I'm like, oh, like this is, but for some reason, like I would hear the song and I would like it, but I just didn't think like
anything. It didn't go any further.
Yeah, like I didn't. It was just very surface like level. I didn't like try to like go after it. Like I would listen to the song, or like I would like listen to it in the skate video and be like, oh, like I think this is a really cool song. But I guess I just, in my head, I was like, oh, like, but I don't know who it is. It's probably some random band that I don't know, or like in my head, like a random big band that I just don't know. Like it's nobody. But goes back into I would look at like, I don't know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I'd be like, oh, there's Danny California, and I'm like, the rest is filler. So I'd hear like a good song, and I wouldn't even like, I'd be like, oh, that's their one good song, like that's why they're using it. But my high school girlfriend was like, go home and listen to like some of these bands. They're like more like, I don't know how I would call it, like Warped Tour style kind of bands, like just more like hardcore, like emotional music. But one of the bands was called Have Heart, another one was called The Wonder Years, and another one was called Man Overboard, which was named after a Blink-182 song. And I did like Blink-182, so she was like, maybe you'll like this band. And I immediately was more intrigued than the rest. And then it was the first time that I like heard songs where I was like, whoa, like this isn't like Led Zeppelin singing about the lore of Lord of the Rings. Like this is something I can like actually connect to or something. Just think like, I don't know, I just had never heard music like, I don't know, talking about like, you know, feeling numb or like something like really specifically bad happening, and like just being like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, even not like, even if I couldn't connect to it, like, just I enjoyed hearing music that I liked, that I thought was catchier and cooler, and you know, you're like 15 and you're like, wow, like other people don't know about this, and like, but I do, and like it's cool, and like whatever else. And so like hearing things about guys singing about living with their ex-girlfriends, it's like that's like an uncomfortable topic, and like I'm hearing like a song like that for the first time, and like I can't fathom that, but I'm just in my head like, you know, then open to that and like much more sympathetic to the thought of something like that. And even if it's just subconscious, just something like that, like I'm a very non-judgmental person, and like you know, I'm very like, I don't know, I equate that to like, I'm sure we'll get into it more, but I was very like sheltered when I was younger. But
in what way?
Like my mom was very like crazy with me, like you can't even go down the street to skateboard at your friend's house. When I was like 15, she's like, that sounds fishy. Or like even like 12, 11, like 15, maybe I would have been getting into trouble, I guess, but I wasn't, which is what's funny. But like even like 11, I'm like, I'm gonna go skate at Nate Dogg's house, and she's like, that sounds fishy. And I'm like, it's Saturday. Like what's fishy about that? Like what's going on? So but I was just really into like that high school girlfriend I had, she was like showing me like independent movies and like all this underground music. Like just in the school that I went to, my mom put me in because she thought that I would be too distracted in regular high school. So my graduating class was 23 people or 22 people. So yeah, super sheltered. I mean, I wasn't like, luckily I didn't turn out as awkward as some of the other people. I definitely feel like I even though like, I mean, this is going well now, there's definitely been like a lot of times where I'm just like super socially awkward. Like I'm really bad at texting. Like girls I've dated in the past will like be like, how come like in person you like talk a lot, but then like over text you're like really short, and like it's like kind of like you seem like annoyed, and I'm like, why would you assume I'm annoyed? Like, I'm just from, like, a totally different, like, not even a different time, but, like, just coming from a totally different state of mind. Like, what? Like, I would never, like, unless they're telling me through the text, I'm upset. Like, I guess I wouldn't try to decipher a word on a screen. Like, I don't know. That's not me. I'm delving off deeper. But basically, before I got sidetracked, super sheltered. So my sophomore year of high school, this new girl comes, and she's, like, already been going to public school and like, you know, had people before she went to the smaller schools, so she had already like, you know, and went to parties and did stuff, so like she had people that were showing her stuff, and she was allowed to use like MySpace and stuff. So she, and MySpace was, so many bands were putting music up. Like it was weird because that was a social media, but also like it was a social media surrounded around music, which was very strange, like, which also kind of shows like how music has gotten less important to people. I feel like it's weird how so many people would put so much time into like what songs they wanted people to hear when like they went onto their page, and like you could be more creative with it. But like now kids want to be like popular on Instagram, and it's just a white screen with a grid of photos. Like, and it's weird because a lot of people look all the same, and there's not even any like, I don't know, character to it or whatever. Like, why can't I have a cool song play when somebody goes on my profile or something? You know, it's just little things like that. But so she was like much more exposed to it. And then like I just remember I went home that first night after she told me about those 3 bands, and I was just like floored. I was immediately like, I've never heard a band where like I liked all the songs on like their album before. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is wild. Like, I'm like living in the Wild West over here. Like, this is like so new to me.
New territory.
Yeah, just something to, because like I said, like in my head it was like, you know, like Rage Against the Machine and Rush and Nirvana and Foo Fighters and like just all these like just superstar status rock bands, and like a lot of those people tend to write about things that either A, didn't happen to them, or it's just like a story, or they're just coming from somewhere else. And like I don't know where that comes from, like but at the same time, if it's vague and, you know, more people can connect to it versus me being like, I was more interested in like, this guy's living with his ex-girlfriend, why is he doing that? Like, this is so interesting to me versus like caring about whatever, something that the Beatles
Broken
were
up.
saying, like the walrus and whatever they're singing about, and just it didn't resonate with me as not nearly as much. And I don't know, I don't know what it is about more smaller underground bands singing about that kind of stuff, but they do. Or I guess maybe, bigger bands, they want to be more private about it, and because it's more vague, more people can, maybe it is about them living with their ex-girlfriend.
They cast a wider
but
net.
they cast the wider net, and even if they were living with an ex-girlfriend, you wouldn't be able to tell that from the lyrics. So more people were able to relate, versus the bigger net being like, why do we want to hear about you living with your ex-girlfriend? Why did you just move out? Like, that's weird. Like, but I mean, that kind of, and so from there, I just kind of went off the deep end. And there was a blogging website at the time called Tumblr that she was like, oh, like, you should use this. Like, it's a way to find music. And I was like, oh, like, is it like
Tumblr, huh?
Yeah. And in my head, I was like, is it like MySpace? It's not really popular anymore. Like, at the time, and like, there was this weird period from like 2012 to like 2015, 16, that it was just basically, people would just make photo edits of something, and like, but a lot of the times it would be like a live picture of the band, and then they would like live edit like lyrics over it. And so you could find these music blogs that all they would make were lyric posts, or like a photo edit of something. So it'd be some really crazy looking, sad, emotional, like a car crash, and then like all these lyrics above it. And like, I would literally just be on this website for hours, like finding lyrics that resonated with me the most. So it was kind of cool that I was going backwards, like, because I would read the lyrics first, like the lyrics, and even if I didn't necessarily think the music was as catchy at first, it was making me listen to it because I like wanted to hear all the lyrics or read all the words and like put it all together, because I'm like, well, if I resonate with the lyrics this much, like, they definitely have something to offer that I want to listen to. And so after she showed me all that stuff, I got into music, and I that year went to my first Vans Warped Tour. And then after that, I kind of was playing music, but I was like, acoustic guitar is fun. And I like listening to these bands, but I had never been to like a show before. I didn't know how it was, like these pop punk bands and emo bands. And I went, and then the second they started playing, everybody was like stage diving and like crowd surfing, and I was like, I didn't even think this stuff was like allowed, like, at this kind of stuff, or like I didn't understand. And like, I had never, and it was the thing that like stuck out to me the most was like, when you watch like a live video of like these big bands, unless it's like the big hit, and like the crowd is never singing. I've noticed, like, they're never singing. Everybody's just cheering. Or like when I'm at the bar, like, people are like, I saw Nirvana in '91 and this and that, but then like they don't know like any of the songs, or like they're like, I was there, or like I was at the concert. And like, it's such a strange thing to me. Like, these bands are so huge, but nobody would be singing along to the words. And then I would watch these live videos of this band that has like 100 people in the room, and like people are screaming the words back like their life depended on it or something. And like,
what do you think? I mean, what makes the difference between that?
I think just like the like deeper rooted connection, like in the smaller music circles, like I'm never going to, obviously he's passed away, but like even at like, the height of their career, like just Nirvana for an example, or let's say the Foo Fighters, like, I'm never going to stand this close to Dave Grohl, and he's never gonna like put the mic in my face, and like he's not gonna. And I'm like, there's just this like disconnect that's there, I feel like. And like I said, the other thing, like a lot of the lyrics are very like vague and stuff, or maybe about like it's about something specific, but it's not known. It's just like in my view, just a different approach to it. And so, these bands with this, crazy music, or like these, like a lot of the times people like that scary, angry music, like have it like, it's a song about like a loved one dying or something, or a friend passing away. And it's like, just much more like, I don't know, like indie films were always more dark and gritty and graphic in the 90s, and people didn't want dark Batman. They wanted like the goofy kind of Batman and stuff. And so like, I don't know, like when you're younger, you know, you want like the real deal, and so I guess like hearing that, and then you're like you hear it and you're just like, whoa, like he had the nerve to say that when all these other people are not saying that, or like
skirting around it.
Yeah, like all these other people, like, you know, it's something that happens, but it's not something that's talked about. It's just an uncomfortable topic. Or like, you know, like Kurt Cobain writing a song called "Rape Me," and it's an anti-rape song, and he was like, nobody would have listened to it if it was called "Don't Rape Me." And so it's like, you know, things like that, and like, you know, that's not like, it is like a more popular song or whatever, but people are like, and it's like, you know, you're just choosing to talk about something that's more meaningful. And so when you know, you're 15 or 16 and you like connect with something so deeply, and you have nothing else going on, and it's your like whole world, and then you like can go to the show and like buy a t-shirt from that person after the show, and like they're not a big superstar, and like you feel like it's on a more real level of like, oh, like I'm talking to this person, and like the money I'm giving them is actually helping. Like you feel like you're a part of something, and it's not like, I don't know, diluted with all this other stuff. What I'm saying sounds kind of corny and like hoity-toity.
No. It
like,
sounds I was asking you because you have a unique perspective, and I'm trying to get that out of you. I'm trying to figure out, you know, kind of what brought you to where you are today with your attitude, your background, your upbringing, and all that stuff. So, and what you just explained is not everybody has been in that situation, so people will hear. I think that was enlightening, dude. So So you just keep on with your bad self. I'll tell you, like if it gets too boring or you're doing something, we'll change that.
All hoity-toity, because I'm like at this deeper rooted level, like on the base of the scene, and like this. And
hold on, if you do that, just sit Indian style.
Oh,
you know, we'll just make it.
Yeah, but so I don't know, but I guess like what made me, or like what solidified the moment for me was there's this like specific moment. I was at one of the first 3 bands that my high school, like ex-high school girlfriend like told me about. It was called the Wonder Years. And that was another thing too, sidetracking. I had never heard like of a band like naming themselves after like a TV show. That was something else. I was just like, what the heck? And like a TV show like that, I was just like what? But also some of the things that they would talk about and like touch on were just very different than like what I had ever heard of, you know,
or
and
experienced.
Like, yeah, like these are like a little bit older guys like singing about like being at a frozen funeral in the Midwest, and you're in a Goodwill suit, and like, you know, looking at a loved one go away, and like, you know, you're on the road and like you can't do anything about it, and like there's all this like other stuff surrounding it. And so like I said, you're just like, what the hell? And so I'm like going to see this band for the first time, and everybody's going crazy, and he at one point, like everybody was like singing the words, and then he like wrapped the microphone around his neck and like just kept going, and then like everybody was like just still screaming the words, and then he just like was like pretending to hang himself with the microphone, and like was just pointing at everybody like, and I don't know what it was, like he was just like, I'm dead, like I don't even need myself, like you guys just keep singing. And I was just like, I want that. Like, what the hell? Like, because at first I was like, I just want to be an acoustic guy, like this and that. But it was like, more than anything, like that was like the last puzzle piece for me, was like the actual, like, because experiencing a song that you feel emotionally connected to, and then seeing that person be emotional about it, and then you can be emotional about it with them. And like there's a person named Anthony Green who a different ex-girlfriend like had showed me, and he's like a ex-heroin addict and like all this crazy stuff, and that same ex-girlfriend ended up becoming a heroin addict and like pulling me in that direction. So there was this like warbly like 2 years where I was like uncertain of things that were going on. And
so meaning that you did heroin too, you went down that road? Or
no, I didn't get to that point, but everything was just escalating like really quickly. Like, right. I went from, you know, like smoking weed for the first time at like 19 to being like 20, and I'm like doing a bunch of coke and like Xanax and like Percocet, and like you're like with this and like with like this person that I love or whatever, and they're like, yeah, like this is okay, like this is fine, and I'm just like, I don't know. And then her stuff was her thing was like escalating a lot, and so I kind of just wanted to remove myself from that. But this person, Anthony Green, flash forward, I like see him live a few years later, and it's like a 10-year anniversary for an album that has a lot of songs like around that stuff, and like I had just stopped doing all that stuff and like left this person, and like I did, like big bands don't do meet and greets, like Dave Grohl's not going to do a meet and greet, and I was able to, it was like a $50 or $60 ticket, and I was able to pay like an extra $30 to do the meet and greet, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to pay $80 to like meet this person. And like I like met him and I shook his hand, and then like I just started crying, and then like I was like, can I just like hug you? Like, can I just like hug you right now? And he was like, yeah, like of course. And like he just like stood there and like hugged me for like 10 seconds. And like you can't like get that with like
what triggered that emotion though? Was it just a specific
I think seeing this person that has all these songs about drugs, that is now sober, that my drug addict girlfriend showed me, and I'm seeing him sober, and he's sober, and he's like singing these songs about being high on heroin, and I'm like there, like thinking about my ex-girlfriend being high on heroin, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot to, like, it's honestly like when you have that kind of experience, or like, I don't know, especially with like drugs, when you're doing drugs and you play music and that kind of stuff, it really does like transport you somewhere else. And especially when like you have like an intimate relationship with somebody, and like you are like with them and you feel so good on the drugs, and like listening to the music feels so good too, and like you're so wrapped up in it, and then like every time you hear those songs forever, they're always going to mean way more. And so like hearing those songs like live and like not with that person, and I'm like now sober, it was just a very like stimulating experience and like overwhelming one, and I was just like, oh my god, this is a lot. But
wow,
I guess what you were saying, like why people feel, I don't know, or like why people are more drawn to that, or that like smaller scale level of music. I feel like that, like I would much rather have a connection like that with a smaller group of fans and just tour and play music forever than be like some multi-million-dollar record sale person. Like,
right. Well, I feel like there's another level of intimacy and connection, and you really know. Whereas, you know, with the big bands like that, there's always a facade, because there always has to be space, right? Because if anybody could get that close, then that means they would have to spend time, and if they're spending time, then they don't have time to spend with all these other people. So you kind of they have to create some kind of facade that is a barrier, a barrier of intimacy. And what you're talking about is there's no such thing. It's like
just a
the raw deal.
Yeah, just veil totally gone. And I think that's maybe what it was for me. Like I said, the skateboarding, like it was raw and real and like cool and different. And like with all the music on the radio, I was like, this is not cool and different. And like, I don't know, this is just weird to me, or
canned
like
almost.
Yeah, like, and like there was songs that I liked, but like all the songs that I realized that I liked later were always the much more like emotional or like heartfelt kind of songs and stuff.
So speaking of that, what is your daily routine now as far as how does it relate? So I know you have these different jobs, and then you're also in the band, and you're vocals, and you play an instrument, but what about as far as writing music, or do you write your own music?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with the hardcore band Face Facts, the guitar player of that band, he's like musical prodigy. Like he
one of those guys. I would love to be a freaking musical prodigy. You see these like guitars? It's not because I'm good. It's because I want to freaking play it better. But and I'm always having these things to remind me, hey, dumbass, pick me up and play with me. You'll get better. And then I'm like,
keeping them at eye level on the wall, so they're like they're whispering to you as you're walking by.
They're gonna be hanging down, so they bump me on the head too. But
the guitar player of that band, he had like own hardships with family and stuff, and like him and his brother who are in the band, they were emancipated when they were like in their teens, but when they were like 13 and like 15, they convinced their parents to just let them homeschool. And so one of the brothers would just skate all day, and then Andy, the musical one, basically started playing in bands by the time he was 13, and would play in bands with like grown ass dudes, and like he would be driving out to like out here like to Corona, and like would be driving to like Huntington Beach in LA, and like would be playing at a bar, and they're like, this is like, you're only allowed to be in right when you play, and like then you're like gone, like you gotta leave, like you can't be here, and like
put this blanket over your head and walk in this way.
Yeah. And so he from like the time he was 13 to graduation was homeschooled, and so he just wrote music all the time and just didn't ever like go to school and have to do that. And so he just played in bands his whole life, like literally his whole life. So he was one of the people that got in early and was like exposed to it really young, and like was just kind of doing it. And so with Face Facts, it's really fun and cool because I have always written lyrics, but they came to me after a point where I finally was, in my own opinion, like, wow, like I'm at the point where I like what I'm making. Like I would be willing to show this to other people. So this is fun. And Andy writes the drums, the guitar, the bass, and then he actually taught his brother and taught one of our other close friends at the age of like 18 and 19 to play drums and bass. And the drummer is actually really, really good, and he's only 24, and when he tells people that he didn't start playing until he was 19, they're always like, stop playing. He's like, yeah, I didn't start playing until I was 19, and they're like, quit like bullshit. And like, when did you start playing? He's like, no, like I started really late. And it was because Andy from Face X was always the baby in the band, and they were like, you don't have any good ideas, and then he finally was just like, I'm gonna make my own band. And so he started Face Facts and did it, kind of got some little traction and little success with like a 2-song promotional, like they're called 2-song promos, just like a 2-piece, and they gained some traction and like even caught my attention like locally. I was like, oh, this is like so sick, like who's this local band like just crushing it right now, like there's no cool local bands here. And so I would like go see them play and stuff, and like learned like who they all were, and then like ended up joining later. But yeah, so Face Facts, Andy writes all the instruments, and then I write all the lyrics and all the vocals, and then Siamese Dream is more of like my brainchild. I don't play the drums, but like the person that does play the drums in the band, like he'll like kind of play something, but I'll be like, play it like this, or like I'll hear a drum part in a song and I'm like, play it like this, or just like switch these beats around like this,
and then
he
can just make it happen.
And then he can make it, and then he just makes it happen.
That's
so
pretty
like
badass.
It's cool that he's good enough to just be able to do that. And so I'm like, some people are like, do you write the drums? And I'm like I help with them. I'm like, I help
more like guide and push in this direction.
I conduct the drums, because there's times where I'm like, I just get like hella stuck. I'm like, well, do this or try that, and I'm like listening to a bunch of different songs, and like I like have songs that I save for parts that I like want to reference or something, and then he'll be like, well, what if I do this? And I'm like, damn, I wish I thought of that. But, like, you can do it. And so I can't totally say it's my brainchild, but like 75% is me, and then 25% is my friend Michael, who does the drums. And so he also, it's funny, like it's all interconnected. Like he wanted to be a touring photographer, nipped on the heels of that, and like actually was able to take pictures of some pretty big bands in our world, and like we were getting to go to free shows all the time, and he was making all these cool connections. But at the time we weren't ever playing music, so it wasn't like when he was networking with those people, we could do that. And so like I always think about that, like all these people that we were meeting, and I was just like, yo, like thanks for the extra guest ticket or whatever, or like tab at the door, and they were just like, yeah, like don't worry about it. And like now that like could have been like, just like could have done this or could have done that. And I mean, granted, thankfully, I almost call it like, I mean, it's not really because it's not as bad, but like a Slumdog Millionaire thing, like all these little things that happen that end up meaning something later, like little connections that you make that you think won't matter, that end up just being super awesome. So like I've been thankful for having other bigger opportunities and stuff, but yeah. So
you have a song that you want to play?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't sure how you wanted to do it. I figured, like, if you wanted, like, play a couple, like, or play a song and, like, explain what it is, talk more and do, like, one or two more and explain what they...
Yeah, I want to hear a song, so that's what I'm asking.
Sure. All right, so this first song is the first single that I put out with Siamese Dream in January, and I actually wrote it in 2018. The guitar riff actually started, I was hanging out at a friend's house, and the idea for the riff like popped in my head really quickly, and he had a guitar, and so him and his girlfriend were cooking dinner, and I was about to leave, and I was like, hey, can I just use this guitar really quick and record this riff really quick? And they were like, yeah, we don't care, we're just making dinner. And so, like, in the original, like, recording, you can, like, hear them, like, making dinner in the background. But, so it started off, or that's how the riff started, at least. And then the words, it's weird because I wrote the lyrics about two different things, but it's all from the perspective of, I guess, yourself, but it's spoken to somebody. So the first half was written because some of my friends were just kind of in not fun relationships and just telling me how their partner would be, I don't know, just making them feel bad about things that they didn't really do or something like that. And so I started writing it from that standpoint. And then one day when I was writing it, I was talking to myself and I told myself, you make me feel bad about myself. And so then that kind of like got lyrics out of that and then kind of pieced it together. So it's weird because half of it is written from the standpoint of like, you know, wanting my friends to be better, but then the other half is like talking about wanting me to be better, but it all flows together. So you make me feel bad about myself. You make me feel like I will always be stuck in my own house. So why do you make me feel this way when I've done no harm? This way when I've done no wrong? Why do you make me feel this way when I've done no wrong? This way when I've done no harm? You make me feel bad about myself. You make me feel like all my wants have to go back on the shelf. So why do you make me feel this way when I've done no harm? This way when I've done no wrong? Why do you make me feel this way when I've done no harm? This way when I've done no wrong? I
dude. Here, give me some love right there, man.
Oh,
that
hell
was
yeah.
that was awesome. That was fucking awesome, dude. And the acoustics of the room, like, there's no echoey. Like, that was clean, dude. And I bet the recording of that you're gonna want.
Yeah,
I bet it's gonna sound
be a good
good.
one. I honestly.
Oh, dude, that was awesome. That's the first time anybody's actually played in here.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
Hey, me too. I'm excited. That was freaking amazing, dude.
I was like super nervous because I have not been practicing at all lately, and so the last like 2 days I was just like practicing a lot, and so I hope it sounded decent.
No, it sounded good, man. And your vocals in the where it comes from, like I could feel the. I don't know what the word is, man, but it was good. I felt it. It was art. That's what that was.
That feeling that you're talking about, like, I don't know. Obviously, like, you don't know me, but, like, you know, we had this, like, talk or whatever, and, like, I don't know, like, kind of knowing what it's about and then, like, seeing it and, like, hearing it and being like, oh, shit, like, I do feel that. Or, like, being able to see it in person, it, like, breaks down a different barrier. Like, if I just showed you the recording of that song, like, you would not have felt, like, that way just now. Like,
Correct.
Versus me, like, playing it like live for you, and so
which is a perfect like icing on the cake of your explanation earlier. You know, you're in it, you feel it, and it's right here, and you're totally like I felt part of it.
Well, good. I'm glad
awesome, dude.
Glad I brought that into the room or made that vibe possible. But
definitely,
yeah. So that song was, or that song is called Actions, and. Yeah, like I said, the riff just started out as that first, just the dum 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 dum, just that one.
So you first heard the riff, the dum dum, before the words came.
Yes, but that doesn't usually happen to me. I'm not somebody that like. I don't like think in guitar riffs. Like I have to be like there in the moment. So like sometimes I write the lyrics first. But then other times I write the guitar part first, or, I mean, vice versa. But yeah, usually it's never like me thinking of a guitar riff and then being like, oh, I need to get that down like right now. Like usually it's me just like noodling, and then like I will play something by accident or play a wrong chord, and I'm like, oh, that sounds better. Maybe I should do that. But yeah, so that one was just initially that riff, and then it kind of turned into probably the song. Like it's weird. Before the song like was recorded and was like released under a band name, I would just play shows like locally. I somehow it just started being like, oh, like that dude like puts on a good show, or like he like gets really into it. And so we even like without me having music, and like one rule is like don't blow up the spot, like don't overplay your hometown. And so I would always play very few and far between. So when I would like announce it, and I would be like, if you didn't get to the last one, like only time you're gonna get to hear these songs until the next time or whatever. And so I mean it feels cool, but at the same time there's like nothing to show for it. But like the more shows that I played, I would realize people were learning certain parts to like the choruses or something, because they had at that point heard it a couple times. And you know, there's no way anybody could know all the songs words because they weren't recorded. But just the fact that I had people that like knew the lyrics to the songs, or like they'd be like, oh, I like that one song that goes like this, and then they would like say the words back, and I'd just be like, oh damn. Or like they'd be like, where can I hear this, like where can I see that? And I'd be like, oh, I don't really like, these are just songs I write by myself. Like they don't, like they're not going anywhere. Like I wasn't like viewing it as something that I could do, or being like, oh, like I should be in a band or something. Because I guess I should backtrack. In high school, I wanted to be in a band when I first learned about music, but a lot of the bands that I was into were all like my age or a little bit older. Not my age, I should just say like teenagers. So like one of my favorite bands, I was 15 and they were 18, and they were like touring the country and like flying overseas. Oh, wow. And so like my standard,
I want to do that.
My standard that I had set for myself was like through the roof. Like and not for like financial wise, just like if I'm not like on the East Coast, like looking back at Texas or being like, I did it, Mom, like, you know, or whatever. And so I just had this like crazy thing in my senior English class. We had to write letters to ourselves, and I was being super dramatic. And I wrote like, if I'm not in a touring band by the end of my senior year, I'm gonna give it up and get a real job. And I like don't know why. I like gave myself 2 years as like a teenager with like
hindsight, man. Hindsight.
Not even like playing any shows, but I was just like, well, if I can't do it by the time I'm 18, like I don't have like, because in my head I was like, I have all the time now because I don't have a real job and like I don't have to do stuff. So I was like, if I can't do it, then like how am I supposed to do it with like a real job like on my heels? So I didn't make any music for a long time, or like I made some songs, but I didn't think they were very good. And I was starting to play shows, and so through that, I started my first like real band, I would say, which was not Face Facts. It was a different hardcore band, but through that, like I don't know, I had given it up already at this point, and I was like working a graveyard job, and one of my friends was like, come over, we're jamming. And I was like, I don't really care, but sure, I'll go. And they were writing this song, and they didn't even like care about it really. But in the moment I was like, oh yeah, that's like actually really good. Like, and usually we never would record full songs, like any of my friends, or like they would just be recording riffs with drums on their computer. But like, that was it. Like we would just be drinking beers, and like somebody would just be riffing on the guitar, writing, and then be like, look at this stupid heavy song I made, or like I made the SpongeBob song like hardcore or whatever. So it'd just be stuff like that. But I heard something in the song, and then I started like to get like the flow in my head, and I was like, and it was funny because I started playing acoustic guitar, and I liked heavier music, but I just always told myself I could never do that. So I just didn't even like take that route, or like even like get into it that way. So I just was like, I could never like sing like that or do that. So I'm not gonna do that. But it was the first time when like my friends were like writing this hardcore song, I was like, I felt like inspired, and like felt like probably how you should feel when you're like when you're writing
like I could do that,
writing a good song. And so I was like I can do this right now. And I was like, hey, can we like pull out the microphone? And so we pulled out the microphone. The whole thing was recorded in like less than an hour, and at the end when we played it back, they were like, yeah, okay. And my face was like melting. I was like we fucking like we did it. Like we just like did it. Like, do you not even realize? And they're like, yeah, it's like okay. And I'm like, no, like we wrote a good song. This is something marketable. Like this is good. Like what do you mean? Like we like did it. Like we like finally like did it. And it's funny because I could never write a song that I was like proud of on my acoustic guitar. Like I would have some songs here and there that I would play, but they'd always kind of fall by the wayside. And like if I was trying to write a song to play to people and I couldn't even keep myself interested, why would I expect anybody else to be? And
Good
so
point.
after this hardcore song, it's a song that I'm not going to play today, but a song that I still play. But it ended up being the first song I ever wrote on my acoustic guitar, and it was the day after I did that hardcore song. And it was because in my head I was like, I remember what the feeling of writing a good song is like. And it was almost like doing a trick on my skateboard, or like getting your back swing down or something, or getting your driving down at like golf. Like literally like the second it clicked, I was like, whoa, like I can just apply what I did with that song to literally every single other song I write. And so I always tell people, like when people are like, oh, like you're so good, or like you're so talented, this and that. And I'm like, I didn't write my first good song until I was 20. I'm 23, and I've been playing since I was 15. So it took me 5 years to write one good song that I was like, hey, everybody, listen to this. Or like, I was finally just like, wow, like, because I would always ask people, like when I would show them my song, and be like, yeah, but would you listen to it on your own time? Like I was looking for the thing to be like, how do you even ask that? But it's just that, like, they'd be like, oh yeah, it's good. But I'd be like, but would you like listen to it alone, like in your car or something? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know. And I'd be like, that it's not good enough or something. Like, so that was how I viewed that or whatever. But after that first time of being with my friends, and we like did that song, the band didn't really go anywhere. We played like 3 shows, but the main songwriter was same thing, that creative like circle all intertwined. He's the tattoo artist. So, and his career choice was he was apprenticing at like the most popular tattoo shop that's in the Coachella Valley. So he was
all kinds of fun and games, I'm sure.
He was like, dude, I wanna like, you know, be in the band, and I get that I write the songs, but he's like, I'm trying to make money, and like I'm starting to make money as a tattooer, and like I don't have the time. And I was just like, damn, dude, so I gave up all this skin for your dream, and you can't give up a little for mine. Like, what's going on, dude?
Ouch. So I've found a lot of times somebody's like, man, I love this song. It means so much to me. And it'll be a good song. But then other times it's like, man, we were just playing horseshoes, or I was on the pot, or I was watering the flower, or some random crazy thing. And then they wrote the song in about 5 minutes, and then that has a lot of people like that song. And,
yeah, so like I don't know. At least for me, like with song, like that does happen. Like I've written, like there's been times where like I start writing a riff, and I'll just, or like a part on my guitar, and I'll kind of just start like freestyling some words, because in like I just start to feel that it's like a good song. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy to write to, or like I kind of have like a couple topics that I've been wanting to talk about. But honestly, I think what you're talking about, like, you know, these people in these moments of like, oh, they were so hurt, or something traumatic happened, or something big in their life happened, and they've got it all out. But the latter to that, sometimes, honestly, a lot of the times, like when I'm like peak, when everything's happening, like it's not like, oh, my girlfriend just broke up with me, like I'm gonna pick up the guitar. I can't even like focus, like, you know, let alone on like trying to like write a good song. And so I definitely think like with that, like, you know, like what you said, like you're just watering the flowers and it pops into your head. It's like, you know, you're always thinking about little things, or like the meditating thing that we talked about before this was on. Like you're always thinking about stuff, you know. If you're alone watering the plants, and you know it's been a month or two since that bad thing happened, you're definitely thinking about it more clearly when you're watering the plants, and you can give a more clear, thought out, much more clear, thought out, you know, song than versus just trying to cram something out when you can't even. Because I definitely, like, when I'm feeling like really, really bad, I'm not like reaching for my guitar. I'm like, I just need to sit here for a minute and like just mull this over. Because like, but then again, there are some people like that, like that. They were like, they slammed the door on me, and I just picked it up and wrote "Smoke on the Water" or whatever it is. But at least for me, I feel like some of it is true what they say. I feel like some of the best songs are written the most quickly, but I have songs that I like equally that took me a little bit longer to write. But
that you had to think through and piece together over time. And
yeah, like there's some songs like I would have like one half of it done for ever, like for like over a year or two, and then like one day I'd get back from work and I would just sit down, and the first thing I played sounded good, and I was just like, oh, there it is. You're just 2 years too late, but thank you, you're finally there. Like that's, and so there's just certain things like that, I guess. But at least for me, like I have to be feeling more normal, or like in a, like, I guess we're talking about that too before the cameras were on, like rituals. I don't have any rituals for shows, for live shows, but for writing songs, I cannot write in the afternoon. It has to be like in the early hours of the morning, or like in the middle of the night. So virtually the same thing, but it's always been in like at night, or like before noon. Like before noon and after 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. are my working hours, basically.
Got it.
But
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like if I'm in I feel like if it's the first thing I do or the last thing I do, it's easier for me. But I feel like if I'm just trying to squeeze it in the middle of my day, like I can't do it. Like I need it to be like my full focus.
It's like me on the bed. Like I have to put my foot over the bed. Like I can't sleep in the middle, because then like I can't, if somebody's on this side and I can't, or somebody's on this side, and then I'm feeling, you know, with the blanket, and I'm like claustrophobic, so I got to sleep on one side of the bed so I can kick my foot out of the blanket and You know, so
Have
it's
your
like
foot out.
when you're on the first or when you're in the beginning of your day or you're in the end of the day, it's kind of the same thing. Like you have that edge, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the middle, you're just like kind of, you got things that have gone on before and you have other things that you're going to have to do later. And so I could see that. What is your, okay, so you played that song, which is freaking awesome. And you said that you were thinking about playing 2 songs.
Yeah.
So what else you got?
The last one is, like I said, was kind of like a little bit of a fan one that was liked. This one is also one that is liked by my friends and people who like my music tend to like this song. It is just one of those ones that I never thought I would like have one of those songs I did not want to play, but this is one of those songs. But
Everybody likes it, so damn it.
But yeah,
I gotta throw it out there.
But it also is one of the good, probably one of the better songs I've ever written. So I guess I screwed myself over on that one. Right? But all right, this song is called Bathtub Queen. It was about the ex-girlfriend that I was with that kind of is now a drug addict and stuff. She would take baths all the time, and yeah, that was it. Fuck. I'm gonna start that over. Like a frog in my throat. Sorry.
Happens.
My bathtub queen. My bathtub queen. So lovely to me. Why can't you see? When you shave your legs, when you wash your hair, when I'm laying in our bed and you ask, why are you still over there? Get in with me. My bathtub queen. Please, please come home. Bathtub queen, please come home. I can't wait forever. Bathtub queen, please come home. My bathtub queen, my bathtub queen, so lovely to me. Christ, God, why can't you see? When you shave your legs, when you wash your hair, when I'm laying in our bed, you don't ask anymore. Why are you still over there? Get in with me. Now I'm stuck outside the door listening, while all the warm water turns cold, running
just come home? I fucking hate that now you bathe with the door closed. Thank you.
Bro.
Yeah, that one's a bit of a doozy.
Whoa, that's good, man.
But
That is, dude, what a great song that's a good song, dude.
Thank you.
That's a good song. Yeah, you screwed yourself on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because like I usually don't name my songs, and especially like I don't know, I like when songs are named something like else kind of, but like that's the only song I have where people are like, play that Bathtub Queen song or play that like Bathtub Queen, and so I kind of like it's such a weird thing or whatever for people, but like I like strange song titles, and I mean I guess that I thought it sounded goofy maybe like Bathtub Queen, but like I mean it's already a funny lyric, like why not
Right.
just make it the song title or whatever. So
You know what I love is like you sit here and you talk and you're very like kind of quiet in how you talk and you're reserved in your mannerisms and you're like this and you talk. But you freaking throw down, dude. Like you're Wah! And I'm like, where did this come from? Like we're talking and you're like just, and then all of a sudden
when I clock in I gotta give it 110%. All right,
I fucking love it, dude.
Yeah, so
I love that ability. I love the because you are giving 100% of yourself, right? You're not holding back, man. You're just letting it open up. You're like full throttle, and that to me is a lot of people can't do that. I can't do that in certain ways. In other ways, yes, I'm full throttle, but in certain ways, I can't. I'm muffled. And what is really cool is when you are able to take off the governor and open it up, and it's like, holy shit, there's speed there. There's velocity. There is movement. There's power. That's what that was.
And that's like one thing that I mean, at least that I'm thankful for is at least when people like, I don't know, like I don't know what people are gonna like take away from like seeing me play or whatever, but just it all comes back to like that first experience that I had at a show where like these kids were like climbing over each other to like scream the words back like their lives depended on it, like, and just I don't know, seeing somebody be like that emotional or like just like like they wrote it and like they're performing it and like they're still getting like they're still sounding like that, whatever about it. And so I guess like when people tell me stuff like that, like wow, like that's really like in my head I'm just trying to play music like how I feel, honestly.
Do you think that playing that song is therapeutic in any way? Do you still deal with some of the emotions from your ex-girlfriend?
I mean, that stuff definitely still like, is there, and like it was a very, anybody will tell you watching a loved one go through addiction is like honestly one of the worst things that can happen, and like it for me it was like my first serious relationship, first girl I ever like lived with, and like so like the first half like it wasn't like that, and then the second half it just like changed so drastically.
And your mom had sheltered you, so there was no.
So it's weird, like so my mom like sheltered me from a lot of crazy stuff or whatever, and like my mom never drank, or at least in front of me, and was not a heavy drinker. And like there was just this whole facade that like my family never did any of that stuff, and then like years later I found out that like my whole family were all like either in some like struggled with addiction or alcoholism or like all this other stuff.
They were real people.
And so it sucked because like growing up I just was like, oh, like drugs are things that like homeless people do or like stuff like that. Like you're never thinking that like your bartender or your barista is the one like smoking foil in the back freezer at Starbucks or whatever. And so like it like so with that song, I mean I do think that it like helped me like because I had those feelings and like writing it. There's definitely times where if I don't feel like playing it, like if somebody calls it out, like a friend or somebody that's been before that knows or something, and they're like, play Bathtub Queen, I'm just like, nah, that's not, like, it has to, like, feel right, or, like, I don't know, if I feel like the people are actually watching me, I'll play it. Like, it's something that, like, I'm not just gonna, like, put myself into and just have it fall on deaf ears, because, like, it's already, like, it's not a song I, like, practice or anything. Like, it's not one I'm, like, riffing off or something. So, like, when I do play it, it does feel like something, like, it does feel like a part of me that I'm just, like, you know, people say stuff like, musicians put their heart on their sleeve or whatever. I mean, some people don't, but at least for me, like, all of the good things that I ever wrote came from, you know, hard times, or not understanding something and wanting to, and like looking for answers that aren't there, or, and, you know, it's funny because, you know, people ask themselves these questions, and then you're like asking yourself these questions through song, and then you're like twice as much thinking about it, and then at the end you're like, I have more questions than I started with here. Because, and I mean, to go back to the meditating thing, like if you're thinking about a topic and then you like write a song about it, and that song takes you some time, or like you're thinking about it, like, you know, you're obviously going to feel more about that subject by the time you're done, you know? So, like, granted, I felt a lot about that ex-girlfriend and stuff, and, you know, all the drugs and stuff, and, like, kind of, like, pulled me into it and stuff, but, like, I don't know, like, I wrote that song to feel better, but, like, I don't know, songs kind of transport you back to certain times, too, and, like, it was one of those songs, like, I wrote in the apartment, too, at the time, so it was, like, kind of even weirder too, like when I play it, like I'm literally like, and it's like, you know, I'll be like standing on stage, and it's like one of the songs I play alone on the acoustic guitar, the band's not there anymore, and then I'm just playing it, thinking about sitting there on my old couch, and like, it's not bad, it's just, you know, like I said, I feel like I have to like gauge the crowd. I'm like, they're into it, they're watching, they get to hear it, or they get to see me be a sob story, I guess. But
well, that relates to, you know, that definitely relates to the podcast, as far as, you know, some of the best things that you've written have been in response to pain.
100%. Yeah.
And I feel like that most of our biggest blessings in life stem from our pain. And it's not necessarily the pain itself. It is how we sit with that pain and how we decide to address it. Are we going to be a victim? Are we going to just cave in and feel sorry? Or are we going to take it? Are we going to spin it? And are we going to repurpose that in a direction that will make a positive thing happen in our life or in somebody else's? And so what you're doing, you're able to turn that around, repurpose it, redirect it, and you're throwing it out there for everybody to pick up, right? So we all have our struggles that we face in life, and what you're doing is you're taking a struggle that you had and you're throwing out a net for everybody, and you're saying, hey, for this next couple of minutes while I'm playing my song, take a hold of this, and I'm going to lift you up. I'm going to lift you up outside of your problems. I'm going to lift you up outside of your adversity. I'm going to lift you up outside your suffering. And you're able to do that because you unleash it, right? And what you unleash, that is what's happening. You're allowing people to ride your coattails. And that's what happened, like, right now when I'm listening to it. I can totally feel it, dude. I can totally feel it. And anything that I had in my mind was gone. And I was just like, this is a cool experience. Like, and so you're definitely in the right direction. Whatever if you ever were guessing if you're doing the right thing in life, I think you got it.
I guessed for a long time. And I mean, it's weird because I joke around and I tell people, like, I'm like, oh yeah, like I know I rock. Or like when I talk about songs, like I always refer to my songs as hits. I'm like, oh yeah, I just wrote another hit. Like, just
I love it.
But I used to never I used to never be like that. I was just like, oh, like it's not good, it's not good, it's not good. And it wasn't because I was having like this pity party on myself. It's different if I were to play you songs like these that are genuinely good, and then the whole time be like, no, it's just not good enough. And it's like, okay, like you can believe that all you want, but like even you inside have to feel like that's a good, like that would be like,
well, that's a manipulation. People do that, and that's fake. And you can catch that. If it's good, it's good.
Yeah,
right?
But there was just so long where people would be like, no, it's good, and I'd be like, no, it's not good, and they'd be like, why are you beating yourself up? And then I would do that thing. I'd be like, well, would you listen to it in your own time? And they're like, well, no, and I'd be like, then it isn't good. Like you're not. And so it wasn't until that first experience, like I said, where my friends were just riffing in their room, and then finally, after 5 years, something popped into my head. It just took me working a graveyard job.
No longer to incubate.
Yeah, well, I also think too, like a lot of the bands that I would look up to and stuff, like I said, the 18 thing, I would hear some of their song lyrics, and they clearly had much more life experience than I had ever had at that age already. Like, singing about living in Philadelphia and going to parties at like age 16 and 17, like that's probably a lot more stimulating and a lot more going on for a 16-year-old versus me being alone in my bedroom all the time in El Paso, Texas, and then like at 19 totally just dating like somebody that like turned to drugs and just like watching that unfold and literally having like not any idea how to handle it. I mean, just, doing the best as I could as like a 19-year-old kid, but like, going to my therapist being like, I like don't know what to do. And she's like, well, you're 19 and you're dating a drug addict and you're literally doing the best that you can. And so like, it's just one of those things where, for so long I just felt like I couldn't. And you were saying like, something good has come from it or whatever. It is weird because, I could never figure out, like, why couldn't I write a song? Like, why couldn't I write a song for so long? And it's like, you can be so passionate about anything, like skateboarding. Like, I could never be, like, good at skateboarding because I was super duper passionate about it, but I just didn't have anything to, like, drive it for me. Like, I wanted to do it, but I couldn't do it alone. Like, I wanted to be with my friends skating or something like that. And, like, it wasn't until, like, going through, like, I mean, honestly, like, parent stuff too, that was also traumatic, but I just couldn't draw musical inspiration from that, or it just didn't click with me in that way. And so, like, having my first true personal experience by myself, like a traumatic one, and like at the time my parents weren't talking to me. I should say I wasn't talking to them. It was vice versa, maybe. It was
mutual agreement.
It was mutual not talking. I was not the first to break, though, which is all that matters. So, no, not petty and grudge holding, but just, even if it's your parents, if you're not being treated the way you want to be treated, you're allowed to, try to want better for yourself. But at 19, it's very hard. So trying to want better for yourself and, leaving your home at 19 and then going to date an unstable drug addict, you feel very alone.
Yeah,
and
I would imagine.
And, you're the breadwinner in the house, and like, yeah, I would say I had some newfound, sorry, I'm just like going to town on my eye right there.
And the bread's like an English muffin. It's not like at that point in your life you have some huge job where you're bringing in the nice bread, the French deli bakery, bread, that baguette that smells like, it's like, well, no, I got some English muffins here to handle business, and that's
that was about it. I worked at a graveyard valet place, and they had an employee dining room, and like we weren't supposed to take shit from there, and all the time I was just like bagels and English muffins too. So it's funny you use that as an analogy, because I would literally be taking like English muffins and fresh fruit and stuff and like dry cereal and just like refilling up my own Rice Krispie box at home. And I'm just like, I mean,
gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was just, really at that time, like feeling very alone. And so I wrote a lot of songs that I, that mean a lot to me and that, came from that time or whatever. And so it is strange when you have been writing music for some time and like you still feel strongly about different things, but when your life your life does change. Like, so I'm not this broke 19-year-old dating, in a bad relationship forever. So like, I'm not always going to be able to write songs like that or make them sound like that or whatever. So I am very thankful that I am still able to write songs, or it's not like, it's been so long since I've been able to write other things, and so I kind of, just at least for navigating songwriting, like, there was a time where I was like super nervous, like after writing my first few good songs, I was like, does the buck stop here? Like, my life's getting a little better. Like, my life's getting a little better. Like, what am I supposed to do? And like, and there's always inspiration to draw from for stuff, but I'm, at least, like I said, thankful that I am able to still write songs. And when I do get writer's block, it's not like totally like brick wall. Like, I'm still able to get something out, but the songwriting process is just slower, because there is times where I am just like, it'll be like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I'm just like on one, and it's just like I get like 6 or 7 song ideas out like over the course of 2 weeks, and I'm just like, whoa, like that was crazy. Like, how did I do that? And then I go like another 6 or 7 weeks where I'm just not writing anything, and I'm like, damn,
swing and a miss.
So I'm just like, but at the same time, I usually take time when I'm not able to write anything, to maybe just work on other song stuff or social media stuff for the future, or merch stuff. Usually when the song juices run out, I try to be, instead of just being like, because there was so many times where like I would not be able to write a song, and then I would feel upset, and then like, how do you express your upset feelings if you can't even, write them out at that point in time? And so I don't know. I just definitely thankful that I have other things to look towards, like screen printing and other stuff, so I can, divide up my time and not feel totally hyper focused on the same thing all the time. Because
there are different experiences in life that build different layers of depth, and sometimes it's almost like when you play sports and you're playing baseball, but then you also play football, like for me personally, and then like I would also wrestle, and then you would pick up different things from different sports, but then overall those little things all help you in all of the other sports. So wrestling helped me with I guess coordination and maybe endurance, right? And knowing my balance, and then I would take that into, let's say, football, or actually springboard diving. That is really where it helped me. So I ended up doing really well in springboard diving, and I had just started it because it was like fun to do flips. I always wanted to do flips. That's why my company is called Flip, actually, because it's flipping. And when you jump up and you do a flip, it's liberating. It feels
so good.
I've
like gone cliff diving and done like front flips off Sunset Cliffs. My friends were like, "No, you're not," and I was like, I'm like, I'm so gonna do it. And I saw this guy doing it, and I was like, lay it down, like layman's terms, and he was like, get a good jump, just Superman your arms out, and he was like, just bring your knees to your chest, and by the time you open up, you'll be hitting the water. And I was like, is it really that easy? And I did it, and I did it first try, and everybody was like, have you like flipped before? And I'm like, no, but I'm gonna try. Never been cliff diving before.
And the first time you did a flip was off a cliff.
First time I did a flip was off a cliff.
That's a good story.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna like do it. Like, I don't know. Like, and my friends were like all jumping in, and they were like, you've never even like been cliff diving before. Like, you don't. Like, I can't even like I've done a front flip into a pool. Like, I can't even like backflip on a trampoline or anything. And I'm like trying to flip off a 20-foot cliff, and they're just like, this is a bad idea. But I was committed to it. So I mean, but yeah, no, like diving or jumping off stuff, yeah, liberating and feels awesome.
So I think that there's a good thing about the number 3, and I think that I mean, we could honestly do this for another 3 hours. Like, I could sit here, we could talk, we could bullshit about
no worries,
God knows what, but I know that you got other stuff to do, and then but before you leave, I feel like you should play one more song.
Yeah, no worries. We can definitely do that. I'm
going to push you. You said 2. Give, 3.
I said 2
is better than
2 or 3. Yeah, let's we can make it a trilogy. Okay. Let's see.
what to play.
Honestly, those are like the main two that I was thinking of. I was like, if I do play a third one, I don't know what I'm gonna play.
Good. I'm glad I could get you uncomfortable, and you're gonna have to
all right.
play from the hip.
Okay. Actually, I was gonna play a cover. I'm just gonna play one more original song instead. That sounds more fun. All right. So this song is called. Honestly, doesn't even really have a name. I just usually call it Hi all the time. But another song about the same ex-girlfriend or whatever, but I wanted to write a sad song but use lyrics that were not about that sad of things.
Okay.
So like just like, you know, obviously it's a sad song, but I guess I just wanted the lyrics to not convey that as much, even though it is like a very, you know, sad kind of song. Couldn't be 3 for 3.
Stole your heart with caffeine and Holocaust victims things. I did not know this at the time. I did not know. You just wanna be all the time. You just wanna be all the time. I went 9 rounds throughout the night. I always throw in the towel by 6 in the morning. Oh, I hate this. Wish I could change it. Please, oh God. I just wanna be all the time, but I know I can't, so I won't. You just wanna be all the time. Please come back down to me. Please, baby. Oh, baby.
I feel like I butchered that one a bit, but thank you so much.
But isn't it, dude? That's what happens in life, man. We go and we put it out there, and then sometimes we don't hit the fucking note, right? We don't hit it, but
We can be 2 out of 3.
yeah, no. But here's the point. It's not like you got hit with adversity in the middle of that, right? This is what it's all about. You got hit with shit. I screwed up, and you're like, you could have gave up, but you didn't, and you did it again, and you hit it, and it was good.
Almost did a different song, and then I was like, I went too far into that one. I was like, I gotta give him the third one.
Good. I'm glad I pushed you for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Scotty, for having me on, letting me talk about a little bit about my life, plug my bands.
So if somebody wants to get a
and-
hold of you, where do they find your music? Where do they find you? How does it work?
All the music is anywhere that anybody likes to stream: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Amazon Play, all the links. Instagram is FaceFactsHC for the hardcore band, and then Siamese Dream CA for California for everything else for the other band. And then hopefully shows don't stay frozen until 2022 because we were on a pretty good roll. So
Yeah, well, I can see why, man. You have feeling in your music. You have feeling, and that is damn good, man.
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, me
Scotty.
too. Me too. I appreciate it more than you do. So that's great.
Well, thank you.
So there you have it, guys. If you like his music, which if you don't, what's wrong with you? If you know where to reach out. If maybe you have a gig, if you have an office party and you want to have, do you guys do that too, corporate events, or is it mainly bigger
just
venues?
like shows, not like big venues, but I mean
Not yet.
shows. I mean, if people want me to come down by myself, I'll come play to like an intimate audience. But yeah, I mean, I'm usually down for whatever. So
Okay. You guys, thank you for tuning in. I love you, but I'm gonna have to leave you. Sayonara.